So you're looking for a new repeater build, and here's your requirements. You want something with great part break potential. You want something that goes fast. You want something with some great survivability, but you also want it to mow through behemoths like they're made of butter. Well, let's talk about this build then. So for the weapon, we're using Thrax's weapon with Berserker and Cunning. For the chamber, we're using the Marksman chamber. You can switch this one around. I feel like the Marksman chamber is not that useful in Esca with this build just because of how fast you're going to break parts on the behemoths. For the grip, we're using the Captain's grip. This is going to help with us overcoming some speed penalties on this build. For the mod, we're going to be using Precision Sights. This has a stacking damage bonus for hitting the same part multiple times. This is going to be a reoccurring theme with this build. For the bond, we're going to be using Striker's Cries. This is going to give us both a +3 Assassin's Frenzy to also overcome some speed penalties with this build, but also another stacking damage buff. Now for the Omni Cell, you've got 3 options. You can run with Iceborne like I've been doing for testing this build. You can also run Discipline with this build if you don't care about that survivability and you want some more damage output potential. Or you can run with Tempest to get even more damage and some more attack speed, but I don't think you need that extra attack speed, to be perfectly honest. I would use this with Iceborne or Discipline, depending on if you want survivability or if you just want raw damage output. For the Lantern, we're running with Shrike's Zill with a reuse cell. Now we're using this one for attack speed, but we're also using it because most of the other lanterns would reset the stacks of recycle on this build. For the helmet, we're running Dark Watch, which is giving us +3 cunning, and we're putting a +3 reduce cell into this. This is going to slow us down, but give us more raw damage output. For the chest, we're using Mantle of Thorns. This is giving us +3 predator, as well as a place to put our second +3 reuse cell. For the hands, we're running Malkirion's Grasp, probably the most overplayed gloves in all of Dauntless, but you know, they're overplayed for a reason. This is giving us +3 Predator, and we're throwing a +3 Pulse cell into these gloves. And for the boots, we're going with Chrono Treads, giving us the second +3 Pulse, and this is where we're putting that +3 Recycle cell that I talked about earlier. And then for the tonic loadout, these are the ones I would recommend: a Blitz tonic, a Frenzy tonic, and an Ether Drive tonic. You're not going to be using a lot of these because, well, it's not a Catalyst build and you don't really need more speed. These are mostly if you get into a situation where a part break is just not happening, or you ran out of parts to break because you got a little overzealous with those trigger fingers. All right, and here is the breakdown of the perks and the benefits of the perks that we ended up going with. We have +6 Cunning, giving us 10% critical strike chance, as well as 30% critical strike damage. +6 Predator. This is giving us 35% more damage as long as we haven't got hit in the last 15 seconds. +6 Pulse. Every 5th hit of your weapon is a guaranteed critical strike and giving you another 15% critical strike damage. +6 Reuse. Breaking or assisting in breaking a behemoth's part has a 90% chance to grant all slayers 20% increased attack speed for 30 seconds. If you fail that 90% roll check, you get 10% attack speed for just yourself. +3 Assassin's Frenzy. I would have this on the build even if it wasn't forced upon me by the weapon. Each time you break or assisting in breaking apart, you gain 15% attack speed for 20 seconds. This synergizes really, really well with this build. It's one of the reasons why I chose these particular repeaters for this build. +3 Berserker. Now, Berserker doesn't scale great. In my opinion, I prefer running this at +3. You're losing 150 of your max health, but after dealing damage, you gain a 2% stacking damage buff for 3 seconds and can stack up to 10 times. This gives you the potential for 20% damage. If you take this all the way to +6, you're losing twice as much health, but you're not gaining twice as much damage. So I prefer to run this one at +3 personally, and it works really well in this build at that +3 mark. +3 Recycle. Now, Recycle, unlike Berserker, scales amazingly well. If you have +1, you can get 1 stack. If you have +6, you can get 6 stack, and all the numbers in between. So at +3, you can stack 3 stacks of 10% increased damage as long as you're hitting the same part repeatedly. This synergizes really well with the mod we have on the repeaters, and this synergizes really well with Berserker and with the Riftstalker unique effect that we have in this build. The whole build is synergizing around this idea of hitting the same part fast and often until it breaks. And then for our last cell, we're running with +3 Reduce. This is going to give us 20% raw damage, but it's also going to cost us 15% of the attack speed that we have. But we have so many modifiers built into this build to overcome that 15% attack speed, you will very rarely ever notice it. most of the time you're going to be shooting faster than you even want to shoot. So the things I really like about this build is once you get that first break, you really just start mowing through the behemoth part after part after part. You really have to focus on slowing down your part breaks with this build in most of the content that I've tested this build in. Some changes you can make to this build if you're running it in a group play scenario and somebody else in the group is already running reuse. You could switch out the reuse cells for catalyst cells. And in that scenario, you can use the Blitz Tonic with Catalyst and switch out that +3 Berserker for another +3 Reduce, which would get your attack bonus from Reduce up to 50, but cost you 30% of your attack speed. In that scenario, it works out though because of the reuse coming from other people, and then the Catalyst boosting your Blitz Tonic makes this build not even slow down one bit. But the problem is without having Catalyst and reuse, running +6 Reduce is not a good idea. So you run into some bad situations with there, but if you're in a group play environment and somebody else is already using reuse, those are some modifications I would make to this build specifically in that scenario. So if you're running this in a group that's doing Gauntlet, for example, that is one change I would make unless you are going to be the person in that Gauntlet run that is using reuse to buff the party. One of the chief things you need to make sure you do with this build is try to focus in on one part, make sure you get that part break, and then stay on that part a little bit longer. Get some core damage before you move on to the next part. Otherwise, you are going to end up breaking all the parts on the behemoth before the behemoth goes down. That's a very real scenario with this build, and I've had it happen a couple times, and it sucks because you lose all of your attack speed in that situation. Definitely one of the hardest hitting repeater builds that I have played in a long time. I would definitely recommend you guys check out this build if you've got the parts for it. If you guys are struggling to find a guild to play Gauntlet with to get all the new cells from the new season 2 of Gauntlet, I will leave a link to my social medias in the comment section and in the video description. If you click on that, there's a link in there to join our Discord server. Our guild is still actively recruiting. We haven't hit 100 members yet, but we're looking for more people to help us push through Gauntlet Season 2 and Season 3 when it does release. If you guys like this build or have any feedback on the build, maybe ways to improve it, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video if you found anything here useful. Don't forget to subscribe for more builds like this and more Dauntless content, as well as Wild Hearts content coming in the next couple weeks. I'll see you guys in the next video.